Warning: this video contains disturbing details that may be harmful and traumatizing to some of our listeners. We all know that bizarre things happen every day, and you wonder why people don't just take a walk instead of bringing a permanent damage to a temporary problem. This is another story of had I known. If Mackenzie knew what she knew few minutes before she lost her life, she would never have had anything to do with Ayoola. Alas, it was too late. Welcome to my channel, lovely people. Bolanle Ojo here. Thank you for coming here, and I hope you'll stay with me on this storytelling adventure. And please subscribe to my channel and enjoy true life stories of lost, pride, and crime with a moral twist. Our story today is about Ayoola Ajayi, who murdered a beautiful lady he met on a dating app just few hours after their first encounter. What a world. Truly, the heart of man is deceitful and desperately wicked, and no one can explain it. Ayoola Ajayi is a Nigerian born in 1988. He moved to the United States of America in 2009 on a student visa to study at Utah State University in Logan. He lived in Salt Lake City. He was in Dallas, Texas briefly, and people who attended the same church with him said he was desperate to get married in a bid to get the US citizenship. As a result, he started flirting with women and eventually he married Tanisha. But he returned to Salt Lake City alone. This is because Tanisha refused to go with him. According to her, he once caught her with a knife, and he even threatened to kidnap and kill her if she refused to go to Utah with him. Tanisha had to go into hiding, and he finally returned to Salt Lake City alone. After that, she filed for divorce. Ayoola was seen walking aimlessly around in the Utah University on a certain day and was reported to the school authorities by the campus police. The school said he was no longer a student of the university as he had stopped attending classes. He was subsequently reported to the Immigration and Custom Enforcement Agency that he was no longer attending classes and his continued stay in the US was in violation of a student visa. In 2012, Ayoola was arrested for being in possession of a stolen iPad which he was using at that time to search for women online. He confessed to the campus police that he was looking for someone to marry him so he could remain in the country legally. As a result, he was temporarily banned from the school premises between 2013 and 2014. In 2014, a woman also reported Ayoola to the police for rape. She said Ayoola had sent her a text message asking her to come to his house, and after she arrived, he wanted to be intimate with her, but she refused and he raped her anyway. She didn't press charges against him, but she said all she wanted to do was get it on the record in case something of that nature happened to another person. In the fall of 2015, Ayoola reapplied to the Utah University to study computer science with a different immigration status. However, he didn't graduate from the university or any other one. He applied to an agency to be a model, but his full-time job made it really difficult for him to accept modeling jobs, and so he eventually ended his contract. Ayoola joined a singles club at the local church he attended, even though he was still legally married to Tanisha. He got the contact information off of the church's registry and contacted women. Ayoola texted a woman saying he was too shy to talk to her at the church and that he wanted to ask if he could take her out. She declined the offer politely. Her friend, however, raised concerns about how easy it was for anybody to access their personal information just because they were members of her church. She said if Ayoola was pissed off by his friend's refusal to go out with him, he could easily locate her address and attack her. Ayoola started visiting online dating websites and he created a profile for himself on the Seeking Arrangement platform. This platform is also described as a website for sugar daddies and sugar babies and sugar mamas. Ayoola met a number of women on these dating websites, from Tinder to Seeking Arrangement and a whole lot of other websites. He said his only purpose on the website was to meet and chat with females, especially to ease his panic attack and anxiety whenever he had them. One of those women happened to be Mackenzie Luke, who met Ayoola on Seeking Arrangement in 2018. In January of 2019, the divorce between Ayoola and Tanisha was finalized and they went their separate ways. It was actually good riddance to bad rubbish for Tanisha. Mackenzie was born on October 26, 1996 in California. She and some of her friends at school started a club to raise breast cancer awareness to support important women's issues while also building an extracurricular resume for college applications. She was an outgoing and charismatic adult. She was happy-go-lucky and not shy at all. She was attractive and would capture a room when she walks into it. She also engaged in philanthropic work with focus on domestic violence awareness and prevention. She majored in pre-nursing and kinesiology. She loved people and wanted to work to help patients recover from mobility issues. Mackenzie was from a practicing Christian home, interestingly, but as soon as she moved to Salt Lake City, she stopped going to church and didn't want to have anything to do with anyone in any church. She didn't graduate from the university, however, on time because she worked part-time. Mackenzie signed up on online dating apps such as Tinder, Seeking Arrangement, Call Her Daddy. These websites include sexual conversations, photos, videos, and dating arrangements. Mackenzie was involved in them for quite some time. She also had a separate credit card and bank account that she used. She also had TextMe, a third-party messaging app. At the beginning of June of 2019, Mackenzie went back to El Segundo, where she grew up, to attend her grandmother's funeral. She had had 2 serious relationships, but none worked out, and was also in another relationship when she contacted Ayoola. Mackenzie sent a simple message to Ayoola on June 16, 2019, and Ayoola responded by writing "Seeking Arrangement" with a photo of himself. Mackenzie was satisfied with what she saw and she arranged to meet Ayoola the following day when she returned from El Segundo. In the early morning hours of June 17th, she flew back to Salt Lake City and took a lift from the airport to Hatch Park. The Lyft driver drove her straight to Hatch Park at nearly 3 a.m. in the morning. Ayoola was already waiting for her, and so when the taxi arrived in the parking lot, he parked next to the waiting car. She transferred her luggage into the trunk of the waiting car and they drove off into the night. That was the last time she was seen alive. At that time, Ayoola had a guest who rented his basement on Airbnb. He was at the house when Ayoola started burning stuff in the backyard. He said he saw pallets and smelled bad odor. But when the neighbors started yelling over the fence that she was going to call the fire department, the guest went back to the basement because he didn't want to be involved in whatever was happening between Ayoola and his neighbor. When Mackenzie's father couldn't contact her, however, on her phone after she left California, where she had attended her grandmother's funeral, he contacted the police to make a wellness check on her. Police responded immediately, but they found her car parked in front of her building at her apartment. Mackenzie was officially declared missing 7 days later. Mackenzie was officially declared missing 7 days later, and the search for her started immediately. Digital forensic investigation showed she had boarded a plane at Lax and flew to Salt Lake City. Surveillance photos showed her at Salt Lake City International Airport on June 17th, where her plane landed at 1:35 a.m. She texted her mother just after 2 a.m. to tell her she arrived safe. On the 20th of June 2019, the police began their investigation by looking into the young woman's cell phone records. Investigations confirmed that on June 17th, Mackenzie departed a plane at the Salt Lake City Airport at approximately 2 a.m. She took a ride via transport services to Hajj Park, located in North Salt Lake City. The taxi driver, who became an initial suspect, told the police he dropped her off at the Hajj Park, where another individual met with her. Investigations confirmed Mackenzie left the park with this individual at approximately 3 a.m. on June 17th. Investigations were conducted on her phone records, social media, and other communication applications. It showed that all communications and data from her stopped at 3 a.m. that day. Finally, records show that her last communications were with Ayoola. After days of silence, a move on Mackenzie's Instagram account suddenly followed a page called Fatherless, and that was what led police to a home in Fair Park. Mackenzie had sent a text message to an unknown number with an IP address close to the park. The IP address revealed the information of the device and the receiver of the text message used during their internet activity. It showed it was a mobile phone at 547 number 1000 in the Fair neighborhood, a residence owned by a male named Ayoola Ajayi. Police swooped in on Ayoola Ajayi's residence with a search warrant unannounced. Once Ayoola was outside his apartment, he wasn't allowed in again until they finished their search. Ayoola's neighbors informed detectives that they observed him burning something with a horrible odor in his backyard with the use of gasoline on the dates of June 17th and June 18th. Ayoola became visibly nervous and called a lawyer. Then, against the advice of that lawyer, he went down to the police station on the 27th of June to try to prove that he couldn't have been with Mackenzie at the time of her disappearance. Police asked about the fire in his backyard, and he claimed that sometimes he killed goats and sheep to make soup. When he was asked if he killed Mackenzie, he said he couldn't kill anything, not even a fish. Yeah, he actually told the detectives that he cried any time one of his pet fish died. Then the detective asked him, what about the goats he killed for food? Ayoola said that was different. They were for food. Ayoola was allowed to leave the police station at about 5:15 a.m. He was not under arrest, and so they told him to go. However, he couldn't go back to his house. He had to stay at a friend's house. The detectives asked if they could make a copy of the contents of his cell phone, but he said he needed to talk to his lawyer first. If she said it was okay, he would come back to them the next day. Ayoola gave his phone to the police and he allowed them to copy the content. Once they used his location data to find him in Hajj Park at the same time as Mackenzie, they were able to get a search warrant for his home. Detectives found freshly dug area on his property, which is the same area the neighbor had complained they saw Ayoola burning something on. Investigators found evidence that proved Ayoola had murdered Mackenzie during the search warrant. They seized his phone and other digital devices and his car. After searching the home, they found some evidence that raised questions, and Ayoola was detained and brought to the police station for further questioning. He sat in the interrogation room for about 7 hours and vehemently denied he ever met Mackenzie, let alone killing her. A forensic excavation of the burned area was conducted, and it resulted in the finding of several child items that were consistent with personal items belonging to Mackenzie. Another child material was located, which has now been forensically determined to be female human tissue. A DNA profile of that human tissue was obtained during forensic testing by the Utah State Lab. That DNA profile was compared, and it is consistent with the DNA profile obtained through further forensic testing of personal items of Mackenzie. On June 28, a SWAT team got into position around the apartment complex, and a detective called Ayoola, asking him to come outside and talk to him. Ayoola refused, claiming he was only trying to help them with their investigation, but that they twisted everything he said and used it against him. He said if they were not trying to arrest him, then he didn't want to have anything to do with them. The detective told him that they were actually there to arrest him with an arrest warrant, and then he agreed to come out. He was arrested by the SWAT team without any incident. Investigators went back to the location data on Ayoola's phone and recovered information that put him near the Jordan River in North Salt Lake City. Ayoola eventually told his lawyer where he had buried Mackenzie's body. They found an area of disturbed soil, and when authorities excavated a small section, they uncovered human remains. When everything was dug up, they found a body along with Mackenzie's purse and student ID. DNA confirmed the remains belonged to Mackenzie. An autopsy revealed that Mackenzie died from blunt force trauma to the head. When her remains were examined, there was a small hole in the left side of her head from an impact that caused a fatal brain hemorrhage. In October, Ayoola finally admitted that he had planned to murder Mackenzie before he even met up with her. He had turned off his surveillance system before he left the house that fateful morning and had picked her up at Hatch Park. Then he took her back to his house where he strangled her with a belt and beat her. He burned her body and buried it in his backyard. After becoming a suspect, he dug her body up and moved it to Logan Canyon, where he reburied it near the Jordan River. During the investigation, a building contractor came forward saying Ayoola contacted him and he went out to his house to discuss the project. During the investigation, a building contractor came forward and contacted the detectives. He said Ayoola contacted him and he went out to his house to discuss a project. What Ayoola wanted was a soundproof secret room under his front porch that had a high-tech thumbprint lock on it. He told the contractor that he was going to use the room to listen to really loud music and to hide alcohol from his girlfriend. But when he asked if he could have large hooks mounted up high on the concrete ceilings, the contractor said he felt uncomfortable about the whole thing and turned down the job. Another person also came forward. It was a woman who was hired to clean his house. She said she quit after seeing all the cameras he had inside the home. She said there was a camera in every room and multiple cameras in the bedroom, all pointing at the bed. She said that when he hired her, he asked her to bring her 12-year-old daughter with her. She said she got a major Ted Bundy vibe and felt she wasn't safe around him, so she backed out of the job. While investigating Mackenzie's murder, information was uncovered that Ayoola had also kidnapped and raped a woman in 2018. After seeing images of Ayoola on the news, the woman came forward reporting that she had a dinner date with the same man But while they were watching television, he began forcibly kissing her. And when she attempted to get away from him, he pinned her down and beat her 3 times, leaving bite marks on her body before raping her. Ayoola was charged with aggravated kidnapping and 3 counts of forcible sexual assault. As if that wasn't enough, Ayoola was also dealing with a 3rd set of charges pertaining to the discovery of numerous pornographic images of children on his computer. During the investigation, the pictures allegedly depicted children between the ages of 4 and 8 years old. On October 7, 2020, Ayoola Ajayi accepted a plea deal in exchange for removing the death penalty as a possibility. Pleaded guilty to 1st-degree aggravated murder voluntarily and desecration of a corpse in Mackenzie's case, and he received life in prison without the possibility of parole plus 5 years. At the same time, he also pleaded guilty to 2nd-degree forcible sexual abuse in the 2018 rape case, and he was given up to 15 years, which was added to his sentence. Since he was already sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, the prosecutor dropped the child pornography charges with everything that was discovered during the investigation. The court found him guilty beyond any reasonable doubt. And all for what? It seemed that Ayoola Ajayi was metamorphosizing into a serial killer, and he would spend the rest of his life in prison, which is exactly where he belongs. Ayoola sold the wind, and he is reaping whirlwind in jail. If you want to see more stories like this, please subscribe to my channel and click on the notification button.